Morning, Trainiacs. The most common question that we get, what's that watch? Well, instead of just answering Garmin 935, I am going to go through all of the tech I use, all of the wearables that I use, all of the more sophisticated training tech that I use, the apps that I use, and the cameras that I use. You all can stop asking soon. All right, Trainiacs, we're gonna break this down into 4 separate categories. Number 1 is the major technology. These are the big purchases. Number 2, wearables, things that I wear day to day, which has a little bit of overlap with one of the major technologies. Number 3, the software that I use to train. Number 4, the cameras. So let's start with all of the major tech, and we are going to get this out of the way very quickly. I use the Garmin 935. I prefer this over the Phoenix lineup because it has all of the same features, but it's much smaller. I am not a watch person. I've never been a watch person. This has turned me into a watch person because it only needs to be charged maybe once every 7 to 10 days, pairs with everything, tracks a whole bunch of metrics, things like sleep and resting heart rate, and it's been reliable. Next major tech is what trainer I use. Right now, it is the Cyclops H2. I like the Cyclops hammer. It's basically comparable to the Wahoo Tickr 2018. As I've mentioned in other videos, the Wahoo Tickr 2018 is a little bit quieter, but as far as that and the ability to pair to the climb, they're basically the same trainer. So if noise isn't an issue, not for me. If climb isn't an issue, Cyclops is a very good trainer. Next, what power meter I use is and always has been and likely always will be the Powertap P1 power pedals. Right now, you can get these directly through Powertap on their website. These pedals have always been extremely reliable. You can switch them from one bike to the next within a matter of about 45 seconds. It's very reliable for pairing. The readings have been very reliable. After 4 years, it's just now that this got a little bit finicky right before Half Ironman Worlds, but because the company is so good at warranty, same company that owns Cyclops, they overnighted me a pair of pedals the very next day. I like those guys. And as far as bike computer, what do I use? It is the Wahoo Element Bolt. About a year ago, I switched over from the Garmin 520 to the Wahoo Element Bolt. I find the Wahoo ecosystem to be just a little bit more forward thinking. This is easier to set up, easier to pair, it's easier to customize the screens, and it comes in Triathlon Terran Limited Edition Red. They didn't do that for me, but we like to say it. Next, let's get into the wearables. These are the things that I just put on me. Number 1, I have been using and will continue to use the Stryd running power meter. This has actually proven itself to be really reliable. I don't necessarily use it in training or in a race. I like to use basically feel, perceived exertion, a little bit of pace to push myself, but this is a really nice check-in. There's a measurement in this that tells you when your leg stiffness and your form breaks down, and I like to use that to guide where my training should focus in the future. Heart rate monitor, I use the Wahoo Tickr. Does it pair with all of my stuff? Yes, it pairs with the iPad nicely, it pairs with an iPhone very nicely, pairs with my Garmin and Zwift very nicely. I like it. Is it waterproof? Not really. This had to get replaced because I wore the previous Tickr in 2 races under my wetsuit. So it's waterproof-ish, but it started showing signs of water weakness after those races. And the last wearable that I use, I just started using yesterday. It is the Oura Sleep Tracker, Heart Rate Tracker, HRV Tracker Ring. I literally have about 22 hours in this. It's recorded 1 day's worth of data, but this is something that I'm really intrigued to use. Sleep is the most effective performance enhancing drug you can possibly use. So I want to optimize my sleep. Now, what software do I use to help dial in all of my training? So of course the big question is, do I use TrainingPeaks? And yes, I do use TrainingPeaks. However, I don't really use it, as you can see in the calendar here, to schedule out a bunch of workouts. Training needs to be a lot more responsive than that. You've got to be more flexible. So I actually use this looking back retroactively on some of the workouts and where my performance levels are. I just got the premium version of TrainingPeaks, and all of this here, if you go to triathlontaren.com/training log, every single week we share with you my workouts and how I've done those workouts. So not just the data from TrainingPeaks, but all of the individual workouts and why I did those workouts. And I was doing that because the other software that most people follow me at, which is Strava, people would be able to see that I did a workout. They saw that I did a failed King of the Mountains attempt this morning, but they don't know all of the bits and pieces of that workout, all of the sets, why I did that workout. Basically, they just saw Taran did a workout. Now, if you just want to see Taran did a workout, you can go and find me on Strava. The name is Taran Gazelle. Place, however, that you should definitely follow me is Zwift. Now that the winter's coming up, I'm going to be on Zwift a whole heck of a lot with the Team TrainingPeaks platform coming out. I will be hosting Zwift rides there for members of the team, and you can find me there. It's a bit of a funky name, but first name is T, and then the last name is TRIATHLON TAREN. Where I do most of my training tracking is actually just in straight up Google spreadsheet. I do one spreadsheet to track my weight, and I measure that every single morning when I'm in race season, and that kind of just gives me a little bit of like consciousness when I'm thinking about stuffing my face at the end of a workday at 4 p.m. I also have this series of measurable workouts, the key workouts that I do in a week, the long ride, the long run, tempo work, threshold run, intervals. I want to track exactly how far, how fast I went, how it felt, and then the next week when I go and build on that, I make sure that I pass that so that I'm always progressing up. This is just a really one-page way for me to be able to make sure that I'm building each week. Now, let's get into the cameras that we use. We have just recently switched over to the GoPro Hero 7. I was on the GoPro Hero 5. The reason that I switched over to this is because the hyper smooth effect of taking away that shake. Basically, anytime I run and I point the camera at myself with the GoPro Hero 5, it was tremendously shaky. This is a fair bit more smooth. Other than that, it's largely the same. The camera that we do most of our filming with is that one right there. That is the Panasonic GH5. We film probably about 95% of the videos with that. For other videos where we need a second shooter, we use an old Panasonic GH4. And if there was a camera that had a flip out screen, had a full frame sensor, had really good autofocus, had good low light and image stabilization, I'd switch over from the GH5 in a second. Maybe the Sony a7S Mark III, hopefully. And then a lot of times we are actually just using the phone. It's a really nice, like a safety shot just to get a second angle in certain cases. So there are some cases where we're in a race and we're shooting one way that way, and then I will take the camera on my phone and just point it that way. So we get two different angles. And video quality on this is good. We actually use the really super slow-mo in it quite a bit. There you go, Trainiacs. That is everything that I use. If you aren't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button below. If you are subscribed, you are like a red element bolt. Oh man, that is so spicy. Later, Trainiacs.